Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning. Can you guys hear me?
Good morning, yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good morning.
So, just going to give just a few more minutes to see if anybody in the office actually comes in. But I appreciate everyone being here today. We're going to talk about negotiating like a pro. It just dawned on me as I wrote some stuff on the board here that the folks on Zoom can't see, but I'll just discuss it with you guys. So that'll be fine. Give a few more minutes for the folks that are coming in. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. As I said, we're just going to give a few more minutes. We have a few stragglers coming on in. Hey, guys. Thank you so much for coming. Oh, I didn't. That didn't sound nice, did it? Did not sound nice. Good morning. Hello. Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody feeling today?
Great.
All right,
Go grab some coffee. I'll feel even better.
All right. Well, we may go on and get started before you get back, but you won't miss anything major. So today we're going to talk about negotiating like a pro. In case anyone doesn't know, my name is Lachelle Kellum. I am a productivity coach here at Keller Williams Legacy. I've been in business for over 20 years, got licensed back in 1999, I believe. I'm currently an associate broker, and I'm actually a full-time life coach as well. So in addition to negotiating in the real estate sphere, I also work with some government contracting. So I use my negotiation skills there. What else? Need something, Alana?
No. I will watch the video.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, ma'am.
Just quick check. Did we do a sound check? They can hear on Zoom?
They said they can hear me just fine. You can hear me, Cam? Give me a thumbs up. Yep, they can hear me on Zoom, right? So after today's class, you guys should be able to break down and apply tactics to tackle common points of negotiation, analyze and recall counter tactics to create a win-win negotiation, and examine the negotiation strategy of the 3 Ps, which are to prepare, present, and then position yourself. So negotiations, what do you guys know about negotiation? What does negotiation mean to you? Vivian, when you think about negotiation, what does that mean to you? What do you think you're doing?
Trying to create a win-win scenario for both sides.
Okay, all right, correct. And I think that is a really huge part of it. It's really about, it's not always about winning. It's about coming to common ground. It's not about your objective. It's about the objective of the client, the buyer and the seller. Your client and then the buyer and the seller. Your client first, but then the buyer and the seller. So that's a great definition. Well, that's a great place to start. Negotiation are an integral part of any real estate process, and specifically the real estate transaction. Once you have a buyer and seller into contract, it's a pivotal point. Negotiations can make or break a contract. As we just mentioned, it is an opportunity, or the purpose should be to establish common ground and strive for win-win agreements. Nobody wants to feel like they're being raked over the coals, right? And so if you put it out there, then you're going to get it back. And so, yeah, you may have a client or have a seller or buyer, whatever side you're on, that is in a bad position, and you push harder than maybe you had to. There's going to be a time where it comes back and you will have a client that's in in that same position. So creating that space for yourself is really important. And being an agent who functions in integrity, who maintains professionalism regardless of what the transaction is, and has a reputation of being fair and honest is really important. That's going to go a really long way as you develop in this business. And that's my professional and personal opinion. And as I said, negotiations are deal makers or deal breakers. So that's enough about me. So today we're going to break down the common points of negotiation. Again, examine the three P's approach to negotiation, and analyze some counter tactics. Like once you're in the negotiation, what actually do you do? Does anybody have? Can anyone take a stab at defining negotiation for me? Defining negotiation. Of course, I have one all neatly written, but I like to know what's in your head.
Like just my negotiation, just like talking with the seller agent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Just talking to the seller to try to get the best outcome.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Yes, Alana, please.
So I'm all about Google.
Okay, what does Google say?
Google definition. Negotiation is a strategic discussion between two parties to resolve an issue in a way that both find acceptable.
Very good. Very good. So the bargaining process.
You were.
Yeah, you were on it. The bargaining process between two or more parties seeking to discover common ground, reach an agreement to settle a matter or mutual concern, or to resolve a conflict. I like to get to it or get it resolved before it's an actual conflict. Like your objective throughout the process, from the beginning, the very first conversation that you have with your client, the very first conversation you have with the agent on the other side, because you negotiate on the buyer side or the seller side. The very first thing you want to do is to establish some common ground. Establish that common ground. And don't let it get to the point where it's a fight. There really isn't anything to fight about. A lot of times people get lost in the weeds, and I think it comes from maybe not focusing or starting with the end game in mind and identifying what your real goal is, right? So there's two times, and I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but there's two times when you're going to negotiate. It's when you're trying to get your offer accepted, but if you get into a conflict with the seller's agent prior to you even going under contract, then you lost the whole point of exercise. Exercise, the goal of the process, or the goal is to get the property under contract. If you've gotten into a conflict before you could even get into contract, you lost before you even got started. Identify what your goal is. What is your goal in each segment of the transaction? Make sense? Yeah. Well, I guess I didn't get too far ahead of myself. Where do we negotiate? We negotiate in the offer phase and in the option period. So as I mentioned, in the offer phase, the goal is to get a contract, to get your buyer or your seller in contract with the other party. And then the next space or time that you get to negotiate is during the option period. This happens while you're under contract. This is about maybe inspections, right? How do you navigate and move through your inspection period, right? Inspections can kill a deal, and so your negotiations come in that stage. Yes, please.
I think it's also important to know so I love that you said identify the goal, right, ahead of time. I think it's also really important to set the expectation of those goals with your client and ahead of time, so they know, hey, the goal is to move this forward, and to get you, to move you into this house, which means when we get back that 30-page inspection report, you might not want to ask for all 30 pages.
Right. You don't want to throw mud on the wall and see what's going to stick.
Yes, I think expectations are so important too.
Absolutely, I agree, 1000%. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And it's really important to remember after meeting with your client, turning the lead into moving them towards being a customer, and then moving them into actually being a client of yours. And now you've gone through the process and you've taken them out, you've found them a house. I'll say on the buyer side, right? You've taken them out, you've found them a house, you've identified a property, gone through all these things, gotten them pre-qualified, taken all of these steps to move through. They finally identified a house that works for them and their family. Now you're on, right? You don't want to lose it because you didn't have the skill level to properly communicate and negotiate with the other agent. Make sense? You don't want to get in your own way in that space. Yeah, you could easily get in your own way, get in the way of your client, for sure. Negotiation skills directly influence the rate at which you close your deals. They have a lot to do with it. So once the offer is made, right? We've gotten past, we've negotiated to the point where our client's offer has been accepted, right? So now that the offer's been made, well, let's back up a little bit. The offer's actually been made, right? There are three possible outcomes. What are the three possible outcomes once you've made an offer to a client? I mean, to the other side. Correct. Accept, counter. All right. Accept, counter, or reject. That is correct. And in which of those phases do you get to negotiate? When it's countered? Correct. But there's another one. Reject. Yeah, you could maybe come back and work on the terms some. Just because they say no, they said no to your first offer. Maybe you come back to your client and say, well, I already told you they weren't going to accept that offer. So now maybe you can lean into my advice a little bit more and let's move the price up, or let's change, you know, whatever terms you feel may be conducive to you getting the offer accepted. But those are two opportunities to begin to shine, to begin to negotiate the process. Common points of negotiation typically fall into two categories: price and terms, right? So let's talk about price. Price is not necessarily the bottom line, meaning the actual dollar amount. This is where some of the things that are on the board, in my opinion, come into play. So I have on the board, for those of you who are on Zoom, what I'm referring to specifically is, why does how you speak matter? Why does what you matter? Why does what you wear matter? And why does showing up on time matter? These are all things that the listing agent are going to be paying attention to as it relates to determining whether or not they want to work with you, or how they're going to work with you. It's affecting how they perceive you. How they perceive you is directly related to how they perceive your client. And so all things being equal, right? Now it comes down to some interpersonal skills. Would I rather work with this person? Would I rather work with this person? Because they are going to be the interpreter for their client, right? And would you rather work with someone that shows up on time, is professional, knows their facts, knows their stats, knows what's going on, returns your phone calls in a timely manner, speaks to you in a professional and a concise and professional way? Or would you rather be in business with somebody that doesn't really care, only answers texts occasionally? Your professionalism, having professional standards, it all matters until it doesn't. So these are things that you can't take back once you've presented yourself in a particular way. And often we think, oh, it's just an investor, I don't really care, it doesn't matter, I'm just gonna. No, you always present yourself as a professional. This career sometimes gives us the illusion that we have more freedom than we do, in my professional opinion. And in my professional opinion, you always need to show up to work. I don't show up to work in leggings and sneakers because I don't work at the gym. And we have to hold ourselves to a certain standard if only if you want to be perceived and received a certain way. Does that make sense? That's a hard fact, and it doesn't always fit in everybody's groove, but it's the truth of the matter.
Let me ask you this, does it matter who your client base is? So, yeah.
Does it matter who your client base is? For me, no.
You're always going to show up.
I don't care. Now, I'm not going to wait. So I will, perfect example. Let me just tell you, perfect example. So I had clients, an investment group out of Miami that wanted to come to Baltimore to invest. They wanted to buy 12 to 15 properties in a 6-month period. So in our initial meeting, got my little dress on, I'm ready, got a little briefcase because I've never seen them before, I've never met them before, so I'm dressed professional. So they're here, they're only here for 2 days, they want to go see some properties. So let's go see some properties, but they're a little, it's 2 gentlemen, and so they're a little weird. They're like, does she really know where we're going to look at these properties? So when we get to, by the time we get to the first property, which is in Northeast Baltimore around Hartford Road, 21218, right? It's pouring down rain, right? I don't care because I pop my umbrella out, I go around the back, I put my rain boots on up to here, I put my raincoat on, and I'm ready to walk into the house. And they fall out laughing. They were like, you are our agent. You're right. Because I was prepared. I came dressed for the job, but I came prepared for the rest of the job. Does that make sense? And they still matched, and I was still cute. And I went on in the house and I sold them their houses. So you can do both. Yes, Alana. So no, it does not matter. In my opinion, it does not. In my professional opinion, it does not matter. How you present yourself, how you show up here is how you show up everywhere. And don't you ever forget that. Yes, Alana. I'm sorry.
No, I'll let you.
No,
you had a great point there, so I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay, all right. So yeah, it doesn't.
Well, no, mine went down the road of that as opposed to negotiation.
Okay, yeah. So professional standards. Yes, it matters how you speak. Yes, it matters what you wear. Yes, it matters that you show up on time and prepared.
I asked this question because in one training, the trainer was saying you kind of meet people where they are. And so, like a lot of people now use what at one time was maybe shorthand, ebonics, whatever you want to call it. So then they speak differently. So then it was like, okay, so then you have to learn to speak their language so that they can connect with them.
I'm going to speak to that, but Alana's about to burst that. So yes.
Okay, so I wasn't going to, but I will. So I want to speak up so that people on Zoom can hear me as well. By the way, on Zoom, if you can't hear me, please
let us know.
Say something. So I want to share an experience that kind of speaks to your question. When my husband and I started looking for homes, I wasn't in real estate yet. And we were driving around, first-time home buyers, didn't know anything about real estate, right? And we ended up getting shown a few homes from a few different agents before we chose the agent we went with. One of the agents, the first agent we met with, he was super nice guy, really nice guy, extremely professional, very, very, it seemed as if he was very good at what he did. However, he was the way he presented himself rubbed me personally the wrong way because it came across to me as he wasn't mirroring and matching my vibe. I like to joke, I like to smile, I like to have fun, I like to, let's talk, let's be real. I want you to ask me about my family, my kids, my cat. And he was a little too professional for me. The second agent who we did choose, the second agent, he showed up and he was wearing really nice shoes, super nice button-down shirt, with a blazer and jeans. And he also was very personable. And you could tell that he asked me questions, and he found out very early on that I vibe with personal. I vibe with that. So he spoke to me on my level. He wasn't this, I'm above you. That's why we chose him. I chose him because he wore jeans, and I'm a jeans person, and he spoke to me on that. So I'm going to share that. I shared that story to say, always show up professional. Professional doesn't just mean attire. It means keep your emotions in check during negotiations. Yep. It means calling when you say you're going to call. It means showing up on time when you say 5 o'clock is 5 o'clock. It's not 5:01. So, and being prepared, right? And being prepared.
And meeting
the
clients where they are.
Yeah, meet them where they are.
So some people
meet the client where they are
verbally,
right?
Some people speak at a certain cadence, and so if I spoke Ebonics, then I would speak Ebonics, but I tend not to, right? So what I'm saying is that, but you may, and it's not a problem for me. It's more about the cadence in which you speak, the topics of which make you feel comfortable. That's why when I say every little incremental step matters. You're at work. You're not being friends with these people. You're at work. You are right now in the beginning of this process, in the beginning of that process, you should be your tank should be filling up with information about your client. You're identifying what makes them tick, what drives them. You're putting them almost in a lane so that you can understand how to give them, because you can give them what they want, but if you don't give it to them in a way that they can receive it, then they'll never get it. Does that make sense? So it is important to mirror and match. Absolutely. Very flexible. Knowing your client, and we're going to get to talking about that. Knowing your client is very, very important. So right here I have incremental steps. So I just want to go through the terms that we are going to be negotiating. Closing costs, right? Closing date, conveyances, what's going to go, what's not going to go, when it's going to go, how long they can stay in the house, or, all of those details. Repairs, sweeten your offer with the transfer and recording taxes. All of those little things matter, right? All of those little things matter. And as I was saying initially, price is not necessarily the bottom line. It's also the type of loan that your client has, right? Oftentimes, a conventional loan may be perceived as a stronger product than an FHA loan. But we now know that they have conventional products that meet FHA standards, that they're the exact same product. But if you don't call that listing agent and let them know who you are, who your client is, and that they could easily go conventional, but they're choosing to go FHA for whatever the reason is, not that you're disclosing too much or being disloyal to your client, you're drawing a picture to the listing agent of who your client is. I adamantly oppose my clients picking up the phone and calling the listing agent before I talk to them, because it's not their job to draw the picture for them, for the listing agent. It's my job to draw the picture of myself and of my client that is appealing to the other side. Does that make sense? That is very, very, very important. It goes a long way when all the terms are the same. You can't go up so high because the property's not going to appraise. After you offer paying the transfer and recording taxes, there's not much more money you can offer them. Now it comes to who's the better person, who's going to get this deal closed, who's going to make this a smooth and seamless transaction. Make sense? Talked a lot about the seller's perception of the buyers, the picture that you draw, and then also the seller's perception of you as an agent. Negotiation skills, negotiating is a skill, and it can be learned, and it can certainly be perfected. But you have to focus on it, and you can't only do it once you're under contract and it's time to negotiate. It's something that you need to practice and study and learn and perfect. So the best practice is the 3 Ps approach.
And that consists of preparing, we talked about that already, presenting, and then positioning. Preparation is the key to building confidence. I had just forgotten all about my little slide, and I put a lot of time into this little slide presentation, so I just want you to know. But I'll go through it. Probably like right about here.
And you saying preparation is the key to building confidence for the other side that you.
It's building your
Both.
confidence.
Okay.
I feel like it's building your confidence. When you prepare, when you know, let me find this person. Where is it? Know your stats. When you know the days on market, when you know the price per square foot, when you know the number that is sold in the neighborhood, I'll share this with you. I'll be happy to share. When you know the number of pendings in 1 month, in 3 months, and in 6 months, when you know this information, the conversation that you're going to be able to have with your clients, with the seller's agent is going to be completely different from somebody that doesn't have a clue. You're going to stand taller. Your voice is going to sound differently because you know what you're talking about. You know that there's no way on God's earth that this house is going to appraise for $375,000. You already know it. I don't care how many new kitchens they put in. You know it. And you don't know it because of something that you heard. You don't know it because Alana told you. You don't know it because Lachelle coached you through it. You know it because you did the research and you now know the facts. That's where your confidence comes in. That's a whole different, you see how my voice changed?
Yeah,
Because I know what I'm talking about. I don't need that presentation. This is what I do. I don't need the presentation. And you need to walk into those negotiations with this. And it's not how long I've been in business. It's how well I know my stuff. So that's the great leveler. That's the great equalizer. Knowing your business, knowing your stats, knowing your contract, knowing the things that you need to know to guide your clients. Care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, disclosure. Those are the basics. That's the basics and the fundamentals of your business. They follow you through every single thing that you do within this business. Prepare. Preparation is key to building confidence and ensuring a smooth negotiation process. Present. When you present, you're moving into the negotiation process. And we're going to talk about the posture that you should hold in that space. Position. Position is moving both parties closer and closer until they are at full agreement. So prepare. The first thing you want to do in preparing is knowing your goal, right? We talked about when you're trying to get the contract accepted. This is before they know anything about you or your client. Your goal is to get into business with them. Yes, ma'am.
There's a question on chat. Could you just repeat the 3 P's? And I'm going to actually type it in here.
Yeah, I'm going to show them. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
Slide coming up.
Prepare, present, and position. Does that work? So know your goal. Your goal is to get your contract accepted, to create a win-win. When you're working in this process, remember, you're constantly tempering your client. So you're reminding them of their goals. You're helping them to manage their expectations. Sometimes clients their personality will take over their sense or their true objective in a space. They get into, well, I've got to win. I've got to do better. I've got to. And that's where you come in. That's where your demeanor, that's where your professionalism matters. I don't yell either way. I don't get upset either way. One second. I don't yell either way. I don't get upset either way. Because at the end of the day, my car payment is not contingent upon you closing this deal. My job is to get my client where they want to be. And if this is the deal for them, then we're going to make it work. If it's not, then we're going to move to the next. You can't be all over the place and chasing them around with their emotions. They don't even know what's going on half the time. They're picking something to be upset about because that's how they function. You can't join them and don't get in the boat with them. Your job is to be that calm sense of what's really going on so they can always come back to you and trust you. Yes, ma'am.
That point that you just made is so unbelievably crucial. There have been 3 agents in the past X number of months this year who the deals fell through. Great deals, everybody was in agreement, it was moving forward, it was close to settlement, really close to settlement, and all 3 of them fell through because one or both of the agents didn't keep their emotions in check, and their emotions not only played.
Did they play out onto the clients?
They played out on the agents, but now the agents are in conflict, but then that played out on the clients, where the clients that didn't like the other.
Yep. How do you not like somebody you don't even know?
And just so 3 agents lost deals right before settlement this year because their emotions were not in check. It happens.
It happens all the time.
Always,
it's
always
emotional maturity.
Yeah. You always take the high road, you breathe through it, you don't get defensive, you get more, catch more.
You get more bees with honey.
Yeah.
More flies, bees.
You be the professional.
Yeah, you have to maintain, and it doesn't matter. Like I've had agents yell, scream. Now I don't let people yell and scream at me. I will politely get off the phone. I'm confused. What is there to fight about? I have a house. At the end of the day, I'm gonna go home. So I'm not gonna sit there and fight with someone that I don't even know about a transaction. I don't fight at work. I don't fight at home, but I still like to fight. You shouldn't there's nothing to fight about. Your job is to get the buyer and the seller closer and closer and closer until they agree. If you're walking around with an attitude trying to beat somebody out of something, that's probably not going to get you where you want to go. Remember your goal. Your goal is not to win. Because you only win when you're walking away from the settlement table. You're not winning because you got an extra $2,000 off of the sales price. By the time you take 3% and Keller Williams take their percent, it's like $3.50. And you sit there fighting about it. That's crazy. Keep your eye on the prize. Stay focused on your real goal. Identify your goal before you even enter the transaction. Okay, so today, my goal when I present this offer, have the conversation with your coach, have the conversation with your peer. My goal is to get this offer accepted. So I'm gonna talk to my coach as if they're the other side. Hopefully my coach will be as difficult as possible so that I can exercise and practice. Make sense? Keep the goal in mind and don't get caught out there in your emotions.
In those situations, how does that come across to both the buyer and the seller? The agents are
unprofessional, immature.
Is why there's a because it came across as they're not professional, they don't know what they're doing, but it also came across as I don't trust. So it's a seller who said, I now don't trust the buyer. I don't want them living in this house. And these questions.
And what do you care who's living in a house after you got your check?
It became emotions.
Because now it's about what it's, but you are the gatekeeper of the peace. You have to be the gatekeeper of peace and tranquility in a transaction. When everything else is swirling around and going, you need to stay on your facts. You need to focus on care, obedience, accountability, loyalty, and disclosure. You need to remain professional, and you let your clients know. I tell my clients in my initial consultation, once we get into this transaction, it may get emotional. Please don't be offended that I won't join you. I tell them, I'm not going to get upset. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to be mean to the other person. I will not join you in that space. But my job, because my job is A, B, and C. My job is not to join you in that space. And they get it. They're like, oh, and it's okay that it's emotional for you. I do understand it should be, but we're in two different positions in this transaction. And then they're like, oh, she's a professional. Yeah, I'm at work. I'm at work. This is what I do. You have to remember that. Like, seriously, it's not a game. It's not a game because at the end of the day, your ability to negotiate is directly related to your income. That's why it's not a game.
And your client getting their goal.
And that client is not just the client. You have to look down the road. That client is every person that they know. It's every person in their family. You know what my clients will say? Woo, it got hairy. And I was about to lose mine. And she was just as calm. Now, I don't know, if I see a bug, I might get excited. Like something like that, like, I might get excited. But when it comes to this real estate thing, I'm not getting excited. For what? How many deals I've seen up, down, come? Yeah, we're not even gonna get into that. Ooh, look, I had a flashback. Did y'all see it come across my face? Woo, I almost burst out into tears. Woo. Yeah, I've had some situations. So know your client. This is what Alana was talking about earlier. Know your client, know your client's goals, know their personality, know the way that they communicate, right? Know the way that they want information delivered to them, right? And I'm not saying that you have to morph into someone different. However, it is your responsibility to take care of them the way that they need to be taken care of. Otherwise, pick another job. You want to cater to people, don't do this. Does that make sense? And I'm not saying that you have to stop being who you are, but this is what you signed up to do. Take the time to get to know the person. They're not just a dollar sign. They have feelings, they have family, they have emotions, they have a litany of things going on in the background. You should care. I'm not saying take it home with you, but it matters. It matters so that you can do a good job. Not so you can get more friends. It matters so you can do your job. Does that make sense? Think ahead. Anticipate what the other party might want. Anticipate what your clients, how they might respond to what this person is going to say. You got to be ahead of them a little bit. And you drop little crumbs for them. So this is where we're going to start. This is where we're going to end up. They may be miles away from where you're going to end up. This is probably where we're going to end up. I'm going to try to get you to here, but this is probably where we're going to end up. Because you what? You know your stats. You know they're not going to get the house for $325. You know it's already 3 other offers. You know that they have to go $10,000 over or they're not going to get it. How do you make that work for your client? You know that your client isn't liquid enough to do the additional $10,000. How do you work it out? And I'm going to say this. And I'm going to say it. This is what you need your coaches for, not how to use DocuSign, whatever it's called. This is what you need your coaches for. Because you can figure out DocuSign on YouTube. This is what you need your coaches for. This is what the relationship with your coaches is about. This is what your mentors really should be giving. Sorry. Did y'all say that was an Alana? Sorry. Think ahead, anticipate what's going on, set realistic expectations for everyone in the transaction, not just the buyer or your client, but the other side as well. And do me a favor and pick up the phone. For God's sake. I mean, can I say that? Pick up the phone. You are a person. You have something to offer. Have a conversation. Read the person, learn the person that you're going to be in business with. Just like you take the time to learn your client, take the time to learn the person on the other side. Find common ground with them. Be someone that they want to work with. See, you're at work. Because what that person is a person that's with the wrong brokerage. You're not hearing. You're recruiting. Your professionalism, your ability to move through this transaction in a solid way, they're watching you. She learned that. Where did he get that? So now you have a conversation. You stay at work. Use your 8 hours wisely. I'm not giving you 12 hours a day. I don't have it in me. But the 8 that I'm working, it's going to be a solid 8. And I'm working with the end game in mind. My end game is huge. I suggest that you make yours huge too. It's not about this one transaction. This transaction is the past. I already created it. In my mind, it's one of 3, and only one of them is going to make it. So it's just a matter of the numbers here. I don't care about the outcome of this transaction. Now I don't care about the person, but I don't care if it goes through. Because it's a numbers game. If I drew my emotion up to every single deal, every single time, I wouldn't be able to function in this business. I wouldn't be able to stand the 3 months that I don't have a closing. It happens like that sometimes. The market fluctuates. You've got to stand in it. You got to make the best of every single moment of every single day that you decide to show up for work.
So you brought up on the topic of negotiations and making I feel like each year we get, and myself included, each year we get so far removed from that voice-to-voice connection. And unfortunately, what I see happen, and it's interesting the timing of this, because this morning somebody was sending an email. And they said to me, hey, can you just read this email real quick before I send it? Because I'm sitting here right now in my emotions, but I don't want it to come across that way to the person. She basically said, I don't want to come across as a B in this email. I'm not going to say the words, we're recording. So I read her email and I put myself in the mindset of the person reading it. Now, the words she used in the email, I know her. I know the person writing it. So I knew that the email she wrote was very professional, very on point. But she added in certain words that when I read it in the mindset of who's reading it, who doesn't know her as a person and her personality, I looked at her and said, yeah, you're a B in this.
Zing.
So the
You're
person,
shooting them off.
so here's what, unfortunately, when we text and when we call, we are at the whim of the other person translating it in the way their mindset works. Right. And everybody could read something differently. So while I might send an email to Vivian, right? My email might say, let's say I'm a buyer's agent, she's the listing agent. So my email, in my voice, I'm typing it might say, hey Vivian, my buyers are really excited to move forward. They have a few requests regarding the inspection, regarding A, B, and C. Could would your sellers be willing to do the? Hear my tone? Positive, right? Vivian might open the email and read it as this. Hey Vivian, my buyers have a request for inspections. They really want these things done. Will your sellers be doing it? Hear the tone? You can't predict what the other person reads in your tone. So she might take that as I am getting aggressive with her, and she might then get aggressive with her sellers and say,
these people are being unreasonable.
They're being unreasonable. Let's put it back on the market.
And that's not even what's going on.
The phone is your friend, people. It is your friend. Voice to voice is king. It will get you way farther than texting us.
Pick up the phone. Have a conversation. Develop a relationship. That's why the companies that want to turn this into everything is digital, everything is transactional, can't succeed because this is still a very personal business. Pick up the phone. Use the real resource that you have, yourself.
Say something.
Say again.
You said something. I was listening. It's like prepare. You said before going to that presenting the offer and get ready to negotiate.
Yes.
You must have your facts right.
Absolutely.
You must do your search. You must do it. So practically, how do you do this? Practically.
That's a whole nother class, and we will get to that at another time. That is a whole nother class on how to prepare for negotiating, or how to prepare for your listing presentation, how to prepare for a buyer transaction. It all comes as a part of doing your work of itself. Okay? No, of course. And we can have a sidebar. Okay? Be informed, use your coaches, use your peers to practice. People, can you know the laws and obey them, please? As a professional, can you know what the laws are and obey them? Don't end up in the real estate commission trying to make one transaction work. Right? Please, know your contracts. Read the contract. Know what you're having. Your client is not likely to read every single word in that contract. They're just not likely to do it. It is your job to be able to interpret it for them. Know your contracts. Do not ask someone to sign something and you don't know what it says. That is not being a professional. It is just not. Oh, just sign right here. I'm just gonna send it to you. Just sign.
That's what I do at the dealership though. No, seriously.
And that's why real estate agents shouldn't function as used car salespeople. You know,
they don't go through it.
Know your contract. Know what you're having these folks sign up for.
Literally just tested this because my husband's vehicle broke down, his work vehicle, and so he had to get a new one. And so because I have to know my contract and be able to explain it, I'm asking them to do this, and now they do everything digitally. They want you to sign the screen, look at the screen, sign. So I said, no, print it out. Print it out.
Please and thank you.
Right, and then what does this mean? What does this mean? They couldn't even do it.
Because they had no idea.
They couldn't do it.
Nor do they want to.
No.
Nor do they want to. I.e., lots of agents. I just signed it. I just want to get to the money.
Yeah, here's where your wishes are.
I'm gonna highlight it. I'm just gonna highlight it and stick it in the email box. Maybe not.
This is standard contract rules.
Maybe not. Because it all matters till it doesn't. All matters till you sit your little pretty self down, or your little handsome self down at the real estate commission, shaking in your boots. It all matters till it doesn't. All matters till it doesn't. Be informed, obey the laws, know your documents. Asking the right questions. I apologize because I am really not doing well with my presentation as it relates to moving through it in conjunction with what I'm talking about. But asking the right questions, right? So there are two types of questions. So there's probably lots of types of questions, but in this space, we're talking about open-ended questions and closed-ended questions. So tell me, maybe somebody on Zoom, tell me when you would use an open-ended question. What would be the purpose of using an open-ended question?
When you're asking them a question, like their motivators, like say you're talking with a buyer.
I like that, absolutely. To get them talking, to find out what motivates them. Correct. So you're asking a question that allows them to fill in the space as opposed to one that directs them to a yes or a no. The examples here are, what additional information should I know? So that's they could go on and on and on and on. You could be asking them, okay, so when do you want to move? All right, well, what additional information I want to know? You might not know that, yes, they want to move by you know, within a 60-day period. But the additional part is that the wife is pregnant, the mother-in-law is on the way. All of these factors will come in, but if you don't know it, you don't even know that they need an extra room that they didn't talk about in the original buyer consultation. So then you're like, okay, well, where's mom gonna stay? Where's mom gonna stay when she's here? And then you see the husband's face and he's like, oh, you know, oh, well, maybe we need to get mom in the basement and have a basement and a bathroom in the basement. Or maybe we need to have, you know, like a little pool house or something that the mom can actually stay in. Those are the cues, and those are the things that get the clients exactly what they want, because you ask the right questions to get a little bit deeper, to find out what their motivations are. Good answer, Kobe. Great job. So then let's talk about closed. Are you guys good with open-ended questions? Did I cover that enough for you? Because I feel like I'm rushing a little bit. I'm getting to the end, but I don't want to rush you. Closed-ended questions. What's the time and space where you want to use a closed-ended question? When you already know the answer and you want agreement. Right? You already know what the answer is. You know the answer that they should choose, and you're guiding them right down the path to the answer that you want them to have. That's when you use the closed. Make sense? And these are tools in your toolbox. All right, these are the things you're going to call your coach and be like, all right, so I'm going to try this out on you. I want to have this conversation with you. Right? Make sense? So asking the right questions allow you to discover objectives and goals of your client, the seller side, to gain information to strengthen your ability to negotiate. It provides negotiation points, insight, helps you to set clear expectations, helps you to get to know your client and their goal, helps you to know the seller and what their goal is. And again, there's the two types, open-ended and closed-ended. So now it's time to present. I want to go over some things that I recommend you do in presenting an offer. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Call the other agent, pick up the phone, call the other agent, have a conversation with them. Pay attention to their nonverbal cues. Keep quiet once the offer is presented. I'm going to share this. I'll share this with everybody because I haven't done it in time and I don't want to confuse you, but I'll be happy to share the entire presentation. I don't even know. Pay attention to nonverbal cues, the things that they aren't saying, the size, the all those things. Pay attention to that with your client and with the seller, or the opposing. I don't want to say both, with the other side. Keep quiet once you present the offer. The first person that speaks loses. Right? You made your offer. You don't need to keep explaining it. It's all there in writing. When you send over the email, you should have all the terms. This is what hi, I'm Michelle Kellum, blah, 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 blah. This is our offer. Here are the terms. Price, EMD, closing date, whether or not you have an inspection, how long for inspection. Have that all bulleted out, present the offer, call, have the conversation, have some quite pleasantries, leave it right there. Let them come back and tell you. Other than saying, is there anything, but I asked this question before, is there anything in particular that the seller is looking for as it relates to this offer? What closing date works best for them? And once you are kind to someone and get them to open up, they start telling you all kinds of stuff. Oh, well, they're divorced. I need to get them in the thank you very much. All that extra information. Right? Fact find it. Pick up that phone and call them, and then present your offer and let it stay where it is. Even when you don't think it's the best offer because your client didn't listen to you, act as if. Listen carefully during negotiations to find out what is important to the other side. This, I think, gets lost a lot. We already know what we want, and we know that our job is to get what our clients want. But often, in order to get what our clients want, we have to find out what the other side wants so that we can give them what they want so we can get what we want. So listen to find out what's really important to them. Don't get stuck in your head of how this is supposed to go. Don't get stuck in what your client thinks is supposed to occur, because that's not who we're dealing with. This person on the other side has their own set of goals. And if you can identify those and find a way to find common ground, that's how you win. Does that make sense? So listen carefully. It's not only about creating the win-win occurs when you identify, because both people have to win, when you identify what is important to the other side and how can you, within the limits that you're functioning with, provide them with it. Somebody gives you what you want, aren't you much more likely to give them what they want? Way more likely. Well, they took care of me, so let me go on and play nice. When you're listening, seek first to understand. People just get like, God gave you one mouth and two ears. It's enough. That's not very nice, it's the truth. Listen, and listen, actively listen. Listen for what they're not saying. Listen for what's important to them. And find that information, build that into what's going to make it work for everybody. Listen to learn, not to defend. Stay calm. We talked about that a lot. Keeping your emotions in check. Keeping your emotions intact. If it's not, you know, and sometimes even, unfortunately, being too happy may irritate somebody. You might just have to stay right in the middle. People don't always like happy people if they're not happy people. I tend to be a happy person, so people don't always like it, so I have to pipe it down some. That goes back to mirroring, speaking to people in a way that works for them. Some people may perceive my jovial attitude as me not being serious or me not being proficient. They would have that all wrong. However, they may perceive it that way. So as opposed to letting them misunderstand me, I give it to them in a way that they can understand. Know your audience. Know who you're talking to. Stay calm. Always, always, always keep in mind your client's goals. And one of the slides back there said, know your client's limits. So this is something that I like to do. And I know we might go a few minutes over. Is that okay? Is that all right? Just a little bit. I lost my thought.
Know your client's limits.
No, thank you. Know your client's limits. So one of the practices that I have when I'm going into negotiation, what's your limit, right? How far can I go? This is where we want to be, but how far can I really go? Right? When I go through home inspection, and this is a learning process for my clients. When it comes to home inspection, I do not give my clients what I think they should ask for. I do not. I have them read the home inspection report, and I have them send me a list of the items that they will not buy this house if they are not fixed. And then we have a conversation, because they might not pick the things that I think are important, but I need to know where they are before I advise them. Otherwise, they're just going to listen to what I say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's a different approach, I think, than what maybe most of us use, but instead of saying,
it's not my house. It's not my home. And how do you know? How do you even know that they read the whole report? It doesn't matter, because it's still going to be their house. I don't care if you're a first time buyer. You can read. Read the home inspection report. Tell me what you want fixed. I'm not going to live there.
I like that. Keeping them
responsible.
Giving them some.
And then you tell me, and then after you tell me, and remember, we got a deadline. Time is of the essence. You never
giving them that control so that they still.
It's their responsibility. And then at the end of the day, and I have the can you please read the home inspection? I tell them at the buyer aid in their initial buyer consultation. And once you get the home inspection report, I'm going to ask you to read it and send me a list of the things that you will not buy this house if it's not finished.
That one's a different approach.
Right. And you know what I say? I reiterate it. Don't forget, you're going to send me that list. When are you guys going to read the report? Because you know I need that list. Because I'm not staying up 12 o'clock at night doing a home inspection report list for you. No. I had to work. So did I. I was at work too. Right? So I need you to read this report as if it's important to you. I need you to read this report because it is important. It is telling you details about the home that you are purchasing. Otherwise, what do you know about the condition of this house? This is your one shot at determining what the condition of this house is. We are not going to throw mud on the wall and see what sticks. And you don't have that conversation after you've had home inspection. You have that conversation from the very, very beginning. You have that conversation in your initial buyer consultation. Anybody who was in my initial buyer consultation class, that sets the stage for everything with a buyer.
Now, what if they send you the list and there's something on there that the inspector has highlighted that is like a real major thing, but they don't put it on the list that they would not buy if it's not that?
Then I tell them that's where my care comes in.
Okay.
That's why I need to know what they think first. And then I swoop in, saving the day, to tell them, well, this is really important. In my professional opinion, get this, and that's why it's important to have a relationship with the professionals that you work with. Because now you can have your home inspector support the conversation. You may not have noticed how important this is. However, this is important. Now, it's not my decision. Ultimately, this is your decision. You don't know. Their brother may be a structural engineer and has a company that can do this, so they're not worried about that. Maybe somebody in the family owns a window framing company and they don't have to worry about that. You don't know, but it's your job to make sure that you at least mention it. Make sense? Yeah, but put the harness on the buyer, the harness on the client. It's their show. Let them drive it. My job is not to make decisions for you. I'm a guide. I'm an interpreter. But I'm not a decision maker in this process. After why my emotions aren't tied to it. Right? And give your offer the best possible chance. Right? Give your offer the chance to work. Listen. Because you've done your homework. You've written a proficient offer. Right? Everything that you need is there. Trust it. Let it lay. Make sense? Let's see what's going on with this presentation. I want to talk really quickly about counter tactics. So hot potato, good guy, bad guy, nibbling, right? So everybody can see it, right? Which one, take a few minutes and read it, please. Everybody take a few minutes and read it. And just look back up at me to let me know that you've done. So which one? Let's start easy. Which one is good guy, bad guy? Say again?
B.
You said B?
You said which one is good guy, bad guy?
Which one is good guy, bad guy?
Oh.
C.
I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. Call them on their game. If it continues, then attribute what the bad guy says to the good guy. So good guy, bad guy is going to be the client. So, and you can play good guy, bad guy. I play good guy, bad guy with my client all the time. So I make myself the bad guy, but the client doesn't really care, but I'm going to push for this. And this is in my conversation with the agent. So, but that's independent of this. But this will likely diffuse the tactic because now you have two bad guys. Okay. Which one is nibbling? Nibbling is actually A. So you're not going to completely give them what they want. You're not going to completely ask for what you want. You're just going to, well, maybe we can give you this, but what if you guys give us this? Okay. And then the hot potato, test the validity, find out if the problem is real. Has the party with the problem exhausted every possible solution? So this could come in when the seller's agent wants something that the buyer has, that the seller's agent wants you to move in a certain way, but the seller's really not committed to it. It's really what the agent wants. So I don't think my client's gonna go for that. I think they're gonna want this. They may want this. I don't think they're gonna go for it. Well, this is our counter. Bring it back to me and write. And be quiet. Because that's what your client wants. Make sense? Any questions on those?
That's what you said. Okay, I understand what you're saying. Go ahead.
No, that all sounds really, really good. And it sounds really reasonable. And I can totally see how the seller might think that. But this is what the buyer would like. If you could give us a response in writing within the next 24 hours, I would really appreciate it. I don't care what your seller said. I don't care. Make sense? Always with a smile, always in the right voice, maintain your professional standards, getting the job done. Because what? This is what we do. We know our stuff. So that pretty much, even though I went over, I'm super sorry for going over, that pretty much sums everything up. Does anyone have any questions for me? And I will ask Sarah to send this entire presentation out. I hope that you find it useful. If there are any typos, please point them out to me. Anything that you feel like you need to change, let me know. Thank you very much. But are there any questions? No? Did I do that good of a job or y'all just wait it up? Any questions from my folks on Zoom?
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
What is, so for all the 13 people on Zoom and in the room, in your professional opinion, what would you recommend agents do? Let's say, what could they do over the rest of this week to build more confidence in their negotiation and get more confidence?
So an exercise that I would recommend is, if you have a client, if you don't have a client, pick a property. And this is a little bit of like dream board exercise too. Pick a property that you would love to sell. Act as if. Write the offer for the property, right? Do the research on the property as if you're going to present the offer. Make an appointment with your coach to negotiate the contract with your coach. That is what I would recommend. Because now you're using the folks that are in the July push. Now you have a reason to do your homework and you're practicing a new skill set. Question.
Trainings are only as great as what we do afterwards.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. I wouldn't have thought of that. That's awesome.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So do you recommend
negotiating the terms and prices, or depends on the seller?
That depends on the situation. It depends on the seller. I would feel like that's deal specific. But price. Because you can't get past the price, you don't get to the terms. The price will only get you in the door. So you can't get to the additional terms. It depends because, so many thoughts in my head. It depends because sometimes the price isn't really what's driving, right? Sometimes it's when I get to my next place. So they may take a concession in price if you can let them stay in the house for another 60 days. I don't know why you put your house on the market if you're not going to move in 60 days. But because maybe you have a job situation and you want to have this part already done and they're going to rent that. So every deal is a little bit different. So my first inclination was to say price because it gets you in the door, but it really does turn. That's why listening, picking up the phone, having the conversation, because you may assume that it's price and dollar now because it's price, money. That might not be what's driving. It's really important to have that conversation with all. Did I answer that? I know it's a,
Yes, you did.
It depends.
Client will say, structure. You say, oh, the house is 375. Can you call the listing agent to see if you can offer 350? You can reduce.
Oh my God, that everybody would love a deal like that. What would make you give away $25,000 of your equity?
And that right there is how you educate your buyer.
No, I'm going to answer the question. And then they're going to laugh. No, seriously, tell me, what would make you give a perfect stranger $25,000?
So
Lean
that right there is how you educate your client on not lowballing every single offer, because then you're going to be showing them like 40 houses this year. They're not going to buy any, or win any. However, to your question, absolutely you can call the other agent. Your communication with our partnership with other agents and the communication with other agents is crucial to our relationships in business and our success. So I will absolutely call Mike and be like, hey, Mike, listen, introduce myself. Hey, Mike, listen, I'm an agent here. I have a buyer. We went to sell your property there, went through Cookie Road. They believe they're interested, they're thinking about it. I just want to see as we're talking through, number one, do you have any other offers on the table? And how motivated are your sellers to sell? Are you open to discussing some negotiation on price over the phone before we write up? You can have that conversation. Now, here's the thing. Every single agent works differently. Mike is either going to be like, nope, somebody offer, thanks, bye. Okay, cool. Now, but guess what? Now I know. All right, now I know. Or he's going to be like, yeah, we don't have any offers yet. We might be getting some. I might be getting one in today.
Or they can start giving you information about the actual.
But go ahead and send me your offer, your best. Or they might actually be an agent who says, in my opinion, way too much. Oh yeah, you know what? They are truly motivated. They do want this. They're looking for this. We're open to offers. We're open, and they got like this house. So my point to all of this is, you can always come from a place of, let me just call, get a relationship going, and ask. What that person is going to tell you and how they're going to say it, you can't predict. So all you can do is call and ask, and then just thank them no matter what they do. Yep. Even if that person is rude, 50% of the agents you work with in the nation will be rude to you because they're human beings and they're just rude. I have no better way of saying it. So if you get that 50% that's on the phone with you and they are rude to you, oh my God, thank you so much. Have a great day. I really hope you have a great day. I'm going to talk to my buyers and I hope we get an offer over to you.
It's just
So I'm going to kill her
be disarmed.
with kindness.
It can be disarmed.
Yeah, I'm going to disarm her with kindness.
So in a situation where
Selena Gomez style.
the situation where you actually speak to the listing agent and they're really clear on where their buyer's position, and your client, the buyer, insists on they're only going to offer so much, and you already know you've had a conversation with the listing agent that the seller is not going to sell for that amount, but the buyer is going to offer you. You still write the contract.
So you have two things. One is exactly what Michelle said. You have to educate your client. You have to bring out their motivation.
And that conversation has happened a long time. The precipice of that conversation has happened a long time before you're actually having that conversation.
So Vivian, I would
Education of that client, you're bridling that client, you're managing their expectation. All of that has occurred long before you actually have.
And this is where you're going to pull out their motivation. So I'm going to say to you as my client, Vivian, let me ask you this question. Okay, so I understand where you're coming from. So you're going to welcome it and I understand where you're coming from. Don't get defensive. I called the listing agent. We discussed it. They do have another offer in, or maybe they don't, doesn't matter. They are not going below, they're not going that low. And I went and did some legwork. I went online, I looked at the market. Based on the market, their house is priced out. Based on the market.
You don't just tell them, show them.
And exactly, I'm going to sit down and show you that.
Yeah, right? Don't just tell them, show them.
And then I'm going to say, so here's what I mean by based on the market. Let me show you what I found. Let me show you this house that just closed that was exactly like that, that closed for even above their asking price. So actually, this house is priced even lower than what it should be. So let me ask you this. I know that when we walked through it, you saw your two kids in that backyard, and you saw that kitchen and having a family over for Thanksgiving because you haven't been able to do that. Is this the house you want Thanksgiving in? You got to tap into their motivation and the emotion. You can't bring it to the numbers.
Very good.
Right? So now that person's going to say, yes, okay, then my recommendation is you're pre-approved for $350. The house is listed for $340. What is your best amount before you're willing to see another family living in it? Yep. Use the emotion.
Use the pain of it.
Use the pain of them losing the family in the house, the lack of Thanksgiving in the house. I'm almost Thanksgiving. I really want to happen. The kids trick-or-treating that neighborhood. What is that emotion of that house? Now they're gonna, and now here's the thing: the buyer's going to say one of two things. You're pulling out all the stops. The buyer's either going to say, no, I will not go above 300. Now, by the way, I've also talked to the lender, and I've come back and said, listen, the difference between 20,000 is going to be
$14.
$14,
$16, $63 on your pay.
Yeah. So the difference. So I'm coming back, not only educating on the market, I'm coming back and saying, and Vivian, I talked to the lender, and the difference between you offering 20,000 more versus what you want to offer is going to be $20 extra.
$5 per thousand or something like that.
$14 extra a month. That is literally 2 Starbucks. All right. That is less than a lunch out there unless you're getting like McDonald's. Are you willing to see another family moving in that house
For $63 a month.
or an extra blah blah blah? Now your buyer is going to say one or two things. Either, yep, I am, okay, not a problem. This doesn't sound like the house for you. Do you still want me to try and submit the offer, knowing that it's just most likely going to get rejected? And if they say yes, then yes, another, because you have fiduciary responsibility to do what's best for your buyer as long as you educate them. Not only that, but it's going to give you practice on writing contracts. And what we said, the faster we can get. I can write contracts in under 15 minutes now.
And
because I will submit offers all the time.
And it's also gonna help the buyer along if they don't get it, because now you told them they weren't gonna get it.
Now they
get the proof that they can start to trust you because you already told them.
Now they have the proof of, okay, we submitted it. It wasn't.
Oh, so you were right.
Exactly. So now you have another. Now you have another voice coming in, proving what you just said to them.
Which
Now you have more
than next
fuel, yeah, now you have more fuel to say, okay, what is the highest offer you're willing to go on a property out there? Because we're gonna change our tactics and what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And now, even if they're pre-approved for 350, but they're not allowed to go above 300,
Now you know.
we're not seeing a house that's above 300, if not 290. Like, I'm not even showing them. I'm not even sending CF.
And then when they
I'm
send it to
not-
you, oh my God, I want to see this. Oh my God, remember what happened last time? We're not going to go above 350, so this really doesn't meet our criteria. Actually, you know what? I'm going to change this.
Unless it's a house, unless it's a house on the market, unless it's a house on the market, it's been on the market for like
Forever.
Right. That's totally.
I have a question.
Yep.
Because I know we're talking about,
Should we let the people on Zoom? Are you guys on Zoom
By the way,
okay?
on Zoom, if you were hanging out listening to this conversation, cool. If not, I know the class is over, so you can pop off.
Thank you so
We're not
much for
doing it.
coming. I appreciate your participation.
We're gonna, yeah, just let them hang
Oops.
out, listen.
Yeah.
If they want to.
but my question was, we're talking properties that are like, like there's 400, 500, housing negotiations, we're dealing with 900 to 1.5.
Nothing changes,
Nothing changes?
same thing.
Okay,
A house is
so,
a house is a
so
house.
what about the style of negotiation?
Same thing, you're still setting expectations. You're still walking them through the process. There's still the 3 Ps, there's still the professionalism, there's still the points of, there's absolutely still the points of
So,
negotiation.
so the only reason why I asked is because I've seen in agents, when they negotiate, they don't negotiate with submitting an offer to your paper and waiting because the other offer, no, they talk like the 2 agents.
Are you talking about the stuff on TV?
Yes.
So this was it?
Sounds
Okay.
like-
No, I'm talking about $1 million real estate agents,
Okay,
$1 million.
number one is, I have a friend who's been on a lot of those shows, so let me give you the backstory of those shows in just a minute, so you know how it works.
Okay, but.
Number
do
2,
they-
her name is Bellamy, it's fun, I
do
love
you know
watching
what
her
I'm,
shows.
do you know what I'm saying? Like they sit
Yeah.
down and they talk,
Here's the thing.
like they just talk like,
Yes,
oh.
yes, let me answer. So, be watch, let me answer. What was it? All right, so this goes back to the question that was just asked, do you call to try to negotiate on the phone before submitting an offer? And whether something is $150,000, $50,000, or 1.2 million, you can always call the other agent. Number one, you're always going to call the other agent to let them know an offer's coming in. You always want to, the second you have a buyer who says, I want to submit an offer, you immediately, hey, great, click, I'm calling the agent. Like immediately, not an hour later, not the next day, because you'll lose the house for your buyer, and then you're gonna feel really bad.
And then they're going to fire you.
And then your buyer's gonna fire you. Time is of the essence. Oh my God, Lachelle, I love that you love Cookie Road. Let me do this. I'm gonna get everything together. I'm gonna call you back in just a few minutes to talk about pricing strategies and what to expect. Right now, I'm gonna call the listing agent to see if there's any other offers and let them know it's coming.
And I'm going to find out the lay of the land.
And then I'm gonna call that other listing agent. Doesn't matter the price. I don't care if you're 1.2 or 150 or 50. I'm gonna call the other listing agent. Hey, Leila, it's Alana, Keller's Legacy. So I'm an agent here. First of all, show your property 150 Road. Beautiful property, awesome. I have a buyer who is interested. We're gonna be submitting an offer. We're working that up. Do you have any other offers? Okay, wonderful. Anything you can tell me that could help my buyer put his best offer forward? Now, all I'm doing is asking. So you're either going to say something or not. If you ask, the answer is always no. You don't get an answer.
But she might chuckle and say,
I
yeah,
am.
you know I can tell you.
Right.
You know, or she may give you
If
some.
I ask these for it, now, let's pretend this is a $1.2 million listing. It doesn't matter. Same conversation is going to happen. She's either going to come back and be like, oh, you know what? We do have 2 offers already. Go ahead and submit your, go ahead and send through whatever your buyer offer is. I'll be presenting to my client tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Okay. Or she's going to say to me, all right, well, what offers does your buyer come with? And then, now, I now know there's 2 other offers. I'm going to say, hey, let me do this. now that I know there's 2 other offers, I'm gonna call my buyer, let's work some things out, I'm gonna call you back. When you go with dealing on the phone a little bit through this before I send anything over. She's either gonna say, yes, call me, let's work this out over the phone before you send anything, or she's going to say, no, send me the offer. Doesn't matter. So true story about that show and the other shows, everyone that you see, here's how it actually works. That property that they already purchased, so that property that they're helping that person purchase, has been purchased a year prior. So my friend Melanie, who was on one of those shows, she does beachfront properties. And the one episode, it was so much fun watching the first episode she did. So the way it worked was one of her agents on her team played the part of the buyer. Wasn't a real buyer. One of the agents on the team played the part of the real buyer, while she played the part of the agent. The house was already purchased a year ago. They already lived in the house. They just staged it for the show. So when they were working out negotiations, and then the other agent on the other end was actually her, another agent at our brokerage. So when you're watching that show, it was, the house was purchased a year ago. They already lived in the house. There was 3 agents playing the part of the agent, the buyer, and the listing.
Making the money and you are watching.
Well, I ain't watching that one.
No. With every one of them. They're not, they're just
Ryan
like
Sermon is real.
so he is real, but what's aired on TV is not.
But
Now,
they're real
does
clients.
he negotiate?
They're real
They're
clients.
real
Might not
clients,
be
but
at that moment.
They're actors
Right.
portraying the clients.
They're actors portraying the clients. So what I'm saying.
He doesn't want to believe
We
it.
don't-
He doesn't want to believe it.
You can state everything
What
else,
I'm-
the
what I'm
actual
saying-
buyers,
So what
investors
Brian,
in there.
here's the thing, I know him, he spoke on stage. What he does
Wow.
is real. What he does is real. Meaning the show is fake. The actors are client, the clients are actors. They are fake. However, his portrayal and his conversations and the way he negotiates and talks, that part is real.
Okay.
However, the responses back are all fake. So what you
Wow.
don't see is this. I'm gonna go and call. And you don't see I called a real agent and that agent said, no, submit the offer. You don't see that. They don't portray that. You're seeing what they
sells
want.
on television?
They want
You gotta
to
sell these ads. It's all about the advertising.
I literally just
It's
talked
only
to
about the 30
No,
seconds.
But they do on TV.
I literally just talked to a brand new agent that just got into real estate and is thinking of is deciding where to go, what to join, blah, blah, what to do. And you know, they don't teach you this in real estate school, right? You take the class in real estate school, you take the PSI, they're like, I'm a real estate agent.
No.
This is real easy, right?
Oh my God.
And then so in explaining lead generation and prospecting and working, she goes, no, you show up your houses and you sell a home. And I was like, oh, you watch HGTV, don't you? She goes, oh, I love that. I'm like, yeah.
That's not what we do.
That's not what it is. So let's teach you the real thing. So I say, let's say his negotiation tactics are real. What you're seeing is not real because you don't see what you can't control. If I'm calling each one of these listing agents and all of you are the listing agents, you might be super nice and be so willing to work with me over the phone. And let's, oh my God, we're like besties now, right? And you're giving me details. No lie, one of our agents had a buyer put in offers 3 weeks ago. Agent called the listing agent. Listing agent was like, oh yeah, we have 2 offers. One of them is for this price, one of them is for this price.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't get that. That does not happen whatsoever. And I train people, do not do that as a listing agent. Don't be telling people prices.
That just happened with me. I took a buyer out.
Yeah.
And
It is so funny. I was like, well, now you know exactly what to go with.
the listing agent
That's-
said the
that's what
property
goes
is not
with-
going to appraise for more than $275. I had an offer for $280. So if your client wants it, then they can put in an offer for $290. So, but already saying it's not going to appraise for this amount. She said how much, yeah. But of course my client was like, no, that was actually above their pre-approved amount.
Yeah, so you might have an agent who tells you a lot of stuff. You might have an agent who's super nice, but doesn't tell you stuff. You might have an agent who, like, I know if I call Michelle, Michelle's listing a property, Lachelle is most likely going to say to me, not because she's mean or not mean, she works in a certain way. She has a process. So Lachelle is going to say to me, hey, we have these offers. Yes, there are other offers, or no, not yet, one or the other. But then she's going to be like, go ahead and send off your offer today. I will present it. And I'm going to be like, okay, thanks.
Another thing you said was soon as you get the offer, then call the listing agent. What if it's 9 o'clock at night or?
Oh, great question. There's no fires after 8 o'clock in Naples. So, and after 9, technically in the state of Maryland, you can can't. So my suggestion is anything,
I think that.
anything, yes,
so
so anything prior to 8 o'clock, yes, I'm gonna pick up the phone call. Anything, let's say you view a property and you're not done viewing the property until like 7:45, and then your client like leaves and they're calling you and telling you. So what you can then do is just make a point to, I might say, if it's before 9, I'll probably send a text, hey, I hope I'm not bothering you, I hope it's not too late. I'm gonna start it with that. Hey, it's Alana, I'm a real estate agent, just showed your property late at night. I hope it's not too late. So I want to apologize if it is. I'm starting it in a pleasant tone. We're going to be putting together an offer to submit tomorrow. I'll give you a call tomorrow.
Because they could be making a decision in the morning. You know.
So I'll send that over. Right? And then very first, like I'm 8:30 a.m. Not I'm waking up at 11. 8:30 a.m. because you are a professional. You set your alarm for early. You get up 8:30 a.m. That is your very first call on that agent.
And by then the offer should be ready.
So
Don't
you
have
work,
it.
you
It
work
doesn't-
all
it's
night.
at home, work
You
at
can
home.
work all night.
Oh my
You
gosh.
work also.
So here's the thing. It depends on how long it depends on how long it's taken you to write an offer. Me, I'm gonna wake up at 8 a.m. because I can do it in 15 minutes because I literally practiced. I wrote 27 fake offers in 10 days to get my timing down.
Simple offers.
That is the,
No, actually, I
that
love
is that
it.
the S or the C?
Everyone-
Which is it?
Hmm?
Is that the S or the C?
Oh, that's this.
That's the S and R.
I don't have any
of
say.
it.
I don't have any say.
I don't have any S at all.
C is a perfectionist, and S is a researcher by nature, and S wants to know things. All right, so my personality is I hate not knowing things. So because I want to know things, I have to practice, I have to research, I have to get in. If you don't have that, you're not going to do that. It's not your natural self, so you kind of have to push yourself to
You have to
make yourself, force yourself. Yeah,
So I'm sorry.
No.
but I was gonna say, if you're a night owl, I'm staying up at night. I'm not a night owl. I love going to bed. So if you're a night owl, stay up at night working on it. If you're not a night owl, set your alarm for earlier because you don't know if that listing agent is submitting the offer, or sorry, you don't know if that listing agent, unless they text you back, you don't know if they will be presenting the offer to their sellers by, let's say, 10 a.m.
Yes, yeah.
You don't know that. So you have a responsibility to your client. There was an agent who I actually had to leave, I called him, told me to leave us last year. Year and a half ago, I asked this agent because he had a buyer, pre-approved, ready to go, he was showing houses, buyer found a house, fell in. And the agent waited on the offer simply because, I'll just use the word, they were lazy. They procrastinated. Oh, I'm really busy. I didn't do. Hey, so the second they had, the second the buyer said, I want to, so you talk about professional standards, he lacked every portion of that whatsoever, which is why I was like, you need to. I'm not. Because what he ended up doing was he had a buyer. It was a Friday. I will never forget this. I said, he called me around 6 o'clock. Hey, my buyer found a house. Great. Let me call you at 7. We can hop on Zoom. We walk through exactly what's going on. We got on Zoom 7 o'clock. We walked through everything. I said, okay, I want you to start working on this now. I'm going to be awake till 9. send me over what you have, send me questions, blah, 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 blah. If you're going through it, text me pictures, whatever. So it's 8 o'clock, I don't hear anything. 9 o'clock, I don't hear anything. So I text back, hey, I'm gonna be going to bed soon. I'm at the club. You know, do anything, like, where are you in this process? He doesn't respond back. Next morning, I text him at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. I text him, I was like, hey, I'm awake. I'm available. Let's get this going. I'm here for you, right? He texted me back around 9. Hey, I was really busy last night. I went out to dinner, didn't have time to put anything together. Let me start working on this now. I'll get back to you. Wow. Okay, cool. So it's now noon. Hey, I'm still here. What's going on? Oh, I didn't do anything yet. Blah, 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 blah. Fast forward to Sunday. So we start Friday. Fast forward to Sunday. I call him. Hey, did you get the offer over? I mean, I didn't see anything, but that's cool. I don't need to put my eyes on it. Did you get the offer over? Because I know it was due by, the listing agent said to you, I'm presenting offers Saturday night. He goes, oh, yeah, I never really got that over to my buyer. Oh. So, no lie, my conversation with this person was, this is how it happened. Do you actually want to be in real estate? That's literally the words on it. I said, you lost this house for your buyer. How do you feel? He's like, oh, I feel really bad. I said, what are you going to do differently? He goes, oh, I already lined up some houses for myself. Oh, my goodness. He does this again. So the buyers get super angry with him. And he calls me, he goes, what do you want? You're angry with me. I said, oh, what? Good. I'm angry with you too. I wish those buyers were, so I literally said, I wish those buyers hired you. This is a true story. True story. I said, give those buyers. Well, that's what I did. I said, let me do this. Let me take those buyers from you. Let me refer them out. Why don't you just refer business, because you don't have time to work with people and you don't care. And I literally said, right, push button. I have too much care for people that like, I literally was like almost crying. And no, I'm good. I don't want to burn. I got this, blah, 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 blah. There's a whole lot of talk. And long story short, the buyer's fired. The buyers ended up calling the broker.
Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking.
The buyers called Maryland Commission on them. Oh, yeah. So he called me, oh my God, I did wrong, I did this, talk, all this talk. And I was like, sorry, 3 strikes, you're out. You got to go to a brokerage. You got 2 weeks plus. Because now, like, if we got in real estate to help people, right? Yeah, at the end of the day, we got to pay.
Time is of the essence. That's what we all.
Time is of the essence, and we have people's lives in our hands. We have the biggest purchase of their life in our hand. Not to make that sound scary, but it is. Yeah, like, give it to me. I'll write the contract. Give me a referral fee. I'll totally move that contract out for you. I will totally do it. Give me a referral fee. I'll move it out for you. Yeah, like there was an agent who was on vacation. She had a buyer. She really didn't have service where she was. She didn't have service where she was. She called me and was like, hey, I got these buyers. Got to get an offer in. Let me get a referral fee. Can you handle this for me? Yes. I looked at that offer and I was like, absolutely. Let me help. Like, yes.
Wow.
Let's not. Like,
but if you
that drives me crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That gets like every.
It was in the Olympics.
Yeah, he wasn't serious about